Hi guys, welcome to the lesson. Quadratic curves, compiling a table of values. Very important we get the accuracy right, because if we don't get the accuracy in our table, then the points won't be plotted correctly. So let's crack on, get the job done. So we have this quadratic equation, this relationship here between y and x. Y and x are related by this quadratic equation. What does that mean is, well, for each x value we can think of, and these are the x values, that little notation there means take x from -4 up to 4. It's saying x is between, it's greater or equal to -4 and less than or equal to 4. So those are our x values. For each x value in this range, there'll be a corresponding y value. And our job is to find those y values. As I said, those are the x values from -4 to 4. And we're going to layer this table. We're going to look at the x squared term and say, right, if x has values from -4 to 4, what will x squared be? Well, when we square -4, we get 16. When we square -3, we get 9. When we square -2, we get 4, etc. So those are the x values squared. Our next layer is the plus 3x. Each x value is being multiplied by 3, so that'll give us -12. When x is -3, that'll give us -9. When x is -2, that'll be -6, etc. And finally, we're just adding 2. So that will just be a row of 2's being added. And then our y value, remember it's saying y equals x squared plus 3x plus 2. And therefore, when x is -4, we add those three values together. 16 plus -12 plus 2. That makes 6. When x is -3, we add those values together. 9 plus -9 plus 2, that gives us 2. When x is -2, we add those three values together and gives us a y value of 0. We carry on like that. And so we now have a row of x values at the top and a corresponding row of y values at the bottom. And then we put these x and y values together. And when we do that, those are the pairs of values that we're going to be plotting, because those values are saying let's try that again with a second example. The first thing is to consider is the x values. Once again, our x values are between -4 and 4. So we have our row of x values. And the relationship between x and y equals x squared plus 2x plus 5. So the first thing we're going to concentrate on is the x squared. And once again, we compile a row of x squared values. Please do be careful. Sometimes students on their calculator, you shouldn't really need a calculator to work out -4 squared, by the way. A negative times a negative is a positive. But when you do, often the calculator, when you type it in, will give you -16 because you're typing it in incorrectly. Okay? So if you're having to use a calculator, put a bracket around it. Anyway, -4 squared is 16, -3 squared is 9, -2 squared is 4, etc. Our next row of values will be the 2x values. We're multiplying each of the x values by 2. and that's what we end up with. And finally, the plus 5 means we have a row of 5s. Now remembering that y equals x squared plus 2x plus 5, we add these little columns together. So 16 subtract 8 plus 5 is 13. Add the little columns as we go along, and that's our row of y values. And so these are our x and y values that we're going to be plotting. When x is negative 4, y is 13. When x is negative 3, y is 8. When x is negative 2, y is 5, etc. And now we're ready to plot our coordinates and draw our curve. On to example 3, a negative x squared, but we can cope with this, can't we? Of course we can. Come on. As ever, we look at the x values from negative 4 to 4. And that's our row of x values. Now, with negative x squared, just be careful. That means we square x first and then times by negative 1. Therefore, negative 4 squared is positive 16 times by negative 1 gives negative 16. Similarly, negative 3 squared is positive 9, but we're timesing it by negative 1, that's negative 9. And negative 2 squared is positive 4, but we're multiplying it by negative 1, that's negative 4. Similarly with the rest of the values on the row, so be careful with the negative x squared. Square x first, then times the answer by negative 1. Plus 2x is just plus 2 times all the x values. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4, etc. And the plus 3 on the end is just a row of 3s. Therefore, to find our y values, we add up the negative x squared, the plus 2x, and the plus 3 values. So when x is negative 4, we're adding up those 3 values, negative 16 added to negative 8, that's negative 24, and negative 24 add 3 is negative 21. When x is negative 3, y is found by adding these 3 values. Negative 9 added to negative 6 is negative 15, add 3 is negative 12. When x is negative 2, we add these 3 values. Negative 4 added to negative 4 is negative 8, plus 3 is negative 5, etc. Once we've completed our table, let's just focus on the x and y values. And there they are, and now we're ready to plot them. Negative 4, negative 21, negative 3, negative 12, negative 2, 5, etc. So take your time with the table of values. Accuracy is king, and then you'll be able to plot your points for your graph. Let's put this all together in a recap. First of all, make a note of the x values. That's really important. In this question here, x is between negative 4 and 4. The rows in the table should correspond to the given equation. So we need an x row with our x values. Our equation has got negative x squared, so we need a negative x squared row. Note that negative x squared, we square x first, so negative 4 squared here makes positive 16, and then the negative at the front is multiplying that by negative 1, which makes negative 16. Here, when we square x, we get positive 9, but the negative at the front makes that negative 9, etc. We also need a plus 2x row. That's every x value being multiplied by 2. And then there's a plus 3 for our bottom row, and they contribute to give us the y values. Now, we obtain the y values by adding up the components of the equation. So x squared, 2x and 3, if we add that column together, gives negative 21. When x is negative 3, if we add that column together, negative 9, negative 6 and 3, we get negative 12. And when x is negative 2, if we add that column together, negative 4, subtract 4 plus 3 gives negative 5. So we add the columns of the three numbers together to give us our y values. Then we look at the x and y values, that's the yellow rows in the table, and we plot the coordinates from the yellow rows. And if there's anything about the video you haven't understood, just watch it back. And if you have, that's great, because that's the job done.